Peace, community. Welcome to Esoteric Sessions. If you are new, welcome. And if you are returning, welcome back. Gratitude for each of you tuning in and joining me on this esoteric journey. Today is Friday, or shall I say, Venus's Day, March 14th, 2025. And I am back with another session. And in today's session, I want to talk about the cosmic transits that are taking place and also how they are influencing us at this time. I pretty much want to give my perspective, view, and aspects of what I intuitively feel around what's happening in the cosmos. So, yeah, if you feel guided to add any commentary or just have questions or anything of that nature, feel free to comment down below. But now that I've got the intro out of the way, I hope that everyone is having a beautiful Friday and will have an even more of a beautiful weekend. But I wanted to tap in and briefly speak about the transits taking place. And specifically, I want to bring something full circle that I talked about on another one of my platforms, which is my podcast, All Things Genuine. And I intend to keep certain subjects over there, in a certain organization, I shall say, or I want to have them organized a certain way when I deliver, just to keep it, in alignment with the message. But it all comes full circle. So I had spoke briefly about the shifts taking place in the collective and how that's showing up in regards to relationships. And I briefly talked about how the subject around relationships can be broadened. Like it doesn't have to just associate with romance in essence. It is the relationship overall, like relationships with ourselves, relationships with others, significant others, and partners, friendships, our relationships with those within our family, our relationships to even money, our relationships to how we show up in life. And it's a relationship to that, like, where are we really attached? Is it healthy in aspect? And so these shifts that are taking place are really guiding us in a way to reflect on how we show up when it comes to these relationships. So when I said on the episode on my podcast that I would deepen the conversation around that, what I'm really speaking about when I talk about the shifts, I'm talking about a cosmic transit that started, I want to say, March 1st of this year. And that transit is Venus, which is the planet of love, beauty, art, fairness, justice, romance, partnership, and marriage. It also associates with our wealth, our sensuality, our sexuality, and a few other things, and if not more, that Venus represents and associates with, and ultimately influences in our lives here on the planet. And Venus is currently going retrograde, and pretty much I don't take retrogrades. I used to, like, at the beginning of it, because of the things that I would come across at the height of my journey. I noticed that there were a selective of those in the spiritual community that was very, responsible when enlightening us all in the collective, especially those of us that were at the height of our awakenings, they really were responsible when it came to sharing information and not just creating like a sense of fear mongering around these topics. So I don't necessarily associate retrogrades with negativity. I look at it as a divine cosmic time to reflect on the areas that that planet that's retrograding represents. So once again, Venus represents that love, relationships and etc. And right now it's retrograding, and that's something that I have been seeing even before March 1st. I felt the shift. I saw the shifts happening in the collective in regards to how we were showing up in relationships with ourselves, number one, how we were showing up in relationships when it comes to love and partnerships and romantic essence and things of that nature. How are we showing up when it comes to our relationship to responsibility, and especially when it comes to humanity and what we are all subscribing to? Where do we have attachments in our life? And not to sound redundant in that aspect, but I wanted to talk about what Venus is inviting us to do at this moment. And it's so beautiful. Another thing, I think I've already talked about it. And if not, it'll just be a new moment to talk about it. But I intuitively and just naturally, without opening a book at this moment, of course, I've seen, and picked up certain knowledge and information on this journey from respected spiritual teachers in the community, people that I really look up to and I honor and respect, especially since I've been on this journey. But I want to talk about how I have been really perceiving these transits. So, like I said again, Venus is retrograding, and what I'm starting to really look at, it's like I feel the energy speaking to me very differently. And for those of you that know that are also highly, in tune with the spiritual and things of that nature, you'll know what I'm talking about. But I just felt like, okay, well, what does this mean for me when this transit is happening? And it's not just me that's going through these, transitions and transformations and essentially shifting. It's many other people that can connect with me on this journey and knows exactly what is happening at this time. And even if we don't fully know, we can sense that something is happening. But what I wanted to talk about, right? So Venus is retrograding, and I know that Venus represents love, and I'm just going to say that on a surface level because it represents and associates with so many more things. But for the sake of today's session, I just really want to talk about these transits with all of you to just connect the dots and why I talked about some of the things that I've already talked about. Well, with Venus representing love, Venus is going backwards, essentially to, retrograding. And I take that as a time of reflecting, and energetically, that could be themes that look like, things from the past popping up. Venus is also associated with the number six, which is a vibration that, associates with love, balance, nurture, I feel like compassion. I feel like the number six energy is, some people like to say it's a bit karmic because it can be a bit cycly. It can, come back around. Hence why when I speak of six, six can also be associated with the past in essence and youth specifically. So things from long ago or some time ago or just simply in the past, six can associate with that. And Also, with one that's studying the sacred tools such as, tarot or oracles, the number six in the tarot, of course, repeats itself, repeatedly throughout the entire decks. But six for me, especially when I'm connecting it to Venusian energy and feminine energy and emotional energy, I think of Six of Cups energy when I see that, okay, Venus is retrograding and that six energy essentially. So it's a time of reflecting, like it might feel a bit nostalgic for some, but these are divine cosmic moments that are going to help us in essence. And what I mean by that is asking us to reflect once again, how are we showing up in these relationships? And I just really think it's very divine, and the way and when at the way and at which when Venus, and if I did a little bit of a grammar mess up there, what I'm trying to say is that when Venus retrogrades, when Venus has decided to do so, I also have taken a notice at what that too can mean. We are now in the season of Pisces, and that's when it started. And then just to also share with the collective, as many of you may not, or you may be aware, when planets do begin to retrograde, in essence, if I'm not, mistaken, there's a shadow period for all of them before they actually go direct and they begin their directions, whether it's moving forward or it's moving, in retrograde. And so the fact that Venus decided to station herself direct and, on March the 1st, and it's like, wow, this month specifically, now I'm starting to like really understand, and understand why March is called March Madness. There's a lot of shifts that happen, and there's a lot of things that spring into action. And I emphasize spring because we are on the brink of approaching a new season, and that season is spring. And I feel like Venus going retrograde in this moment, not only is it bringing up moments of the past, but it's also like a refreshment in that. And I say that because Venus will continue retrograding from March 1st into April. And I want to say like maybe the second week of April, if that. And because I don't have the dates, correct. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's until April the 12th that Venus will be retrograding. And then after that, it also has a shadow period. And what I've noticed and I've observed is that the shadow period moments are just as potent when the planet actually goes direct. It's like it's letting you know that it's coming. Kind of like when, and not to associate these cosmic transits with storms in essence, but you know how when a storm is coming, especially if you're from a storm dominant or prominent area, such as like what, I'll use Florida for example. In Florida, and as a Floridian, someone that's very much well aware of how storms come about throughout the state and towards the state, we are aware when things are shifting in the air and a storm is near. Even if you're not in a stormy place where, you get hurricanes and things of that nature, you could just be, storm prone or even tornado prone or things of that nature. You are aware that a shift is getting ready to take place. So just as that happens, and, different scenarios, especially when it relates to weather, and we know, think of that when you think about the planets getting ready to go through their cosmic transits. And that's something that I wanted to mention. But with Venus doing, her transit through the sign, just like she's like, okay, what I want to say is I want you all to reflect on the way that you're showing up when it comes to love and relationships. And, what's your relationship like? And I want you to flow when you think about things and you reflect at this time. And when I say flow, I associate flow to Pisces specifically because we are in Pisces season. And one of the things, well, some of the things that, are associated with the sign of Pisces is, to me, flowy energy, very dreamy energy, very imaginative, very creative, sultry, and spiritual, and that's just for me. And, it's very in tune with the emotional side of things. And I feel like Venus going, direct in this moment where it has gone retrograde in the season of Pisces, it's like it's really being, I don't want to say gentle because this transit can, be a bit intense, but in the ways that it's happening in the collective and, in the signs specifically, I am intuitively seeing it from this way. I feel like it all has a beautiful meaning. And then just to go into the next sign, and then also another thing, I feel like Venus going retrograde in the season of Pisces, which is the last of the zodiac. And Pisces is connected with our feet. And hence, that is the end of the body, right? We're at the very end of a season. And, Pisces season ends off, the winter season, and we spring into, spring specifically. And I feel like we are being invited at this time collectively to really align with what it is that we want to have in this experience called life, essentially. And with all of these transits happening in the way that they're happening, right before we get that opportunity to start anew, Venus is retrograding for me and for you because I feel like it wants to give a fresh start in essence. And with purpose and intention. Like, how beautiful is it to, have us reflect on such relationships in such a way that will benefit us all on a collective level. And you can see Venus in retrograde in these seasons play out in different ways. It's a way that we react in Pisces season, as humanity. It's a way that we react in Aries season as humanity. There's a theme, right? Pisces is associated with the element of water. Aries is associated with the element of fire. And, another thing that I like to mention is that we are in the year of Mars, and Mars is associated with the sign of Aries. And Mars, once again, is a planet that associates with our anger, action, passion, chaos, war, and, also it associates with masculine energy. And these are the times that these transits are happening. And as we have all seen collectively, that there has been a theme of all of the things that I just mentioned, and we're going to continue to see themes that are going to be, happening across the board. Not to sound redundant, but Venus retrograding in this way is like, what more do I need to say? And what way can you all shift before this new season begins? And, she's going through until April 8th, April 12th specifically. And on top of that, while Venus is retrograding, we have the planet Mercury, which is another planet that I wanted to speak about, and going more in depth, in the conversation around relationships and things of that nature. Well, Mercury will be going retrograde as well, while Venus is retrograding also. So we have Venus and Mercury both retrograding during Pisces season as well as with Aries season. And for me, intuitively, and as someone that has been really observing and studying, the cosmos and astrology and astronomy, and just all of the things that I'm guided to dive into. And what I am intuitively getting about all of these transits, like I said again, I finally realized why March is called March Madness because of all of the transits that naturally happen. And some of these things that take place are things that are, in a much different um historical transit. I'll say that. And for it to happen like it is in this moment with these transits, Mercury retrograding, as we all know, Mercury is the planet that associates with thinking, communication, travel, and transportation. Mercury also associates with speed and technology. And it is it will be retrograde. You know what? Now I say it will be. It is retrograding. And I think it began today. Mercury station direct today going retrograde. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it doesn't go as far out as Venus does, but they're right behind one another. Mercury actually stops retrograding before Venus does. And I just don't have that date in mind. If I want to say between the 7th and the 9th, and I could be wrong essentially, but one thing that stands out to me is the fact that these themes are themes, that I spoke about with both planets and what they associate with. These are big themes in our lives as human beings, especially when it comes to love and communication and technology and things of that nature. Like it's all intertwined on this timeline that we are all currently experiencing collectively. And I feel that it's a divine moment being in these transits and experiencing these transits because it's like it means something for every one of us on this planet. And God is the greatest orchestrator of all. And when people, I hear people say commentary, well, what is it that you believe in? This, that, and the third, not to talk about beliefs in that nature, but, you know, God is creator. And when I see all of these things taking place in our galaxy, the universe, essentially, I'm like, wow, it's like a symphony to me to see everything, be in harmony, even though a lot of things are a bit chaotic, which is, that's always going to exist. But there's been a great deal of imbalance. And I feel like with these cosmic transits that take place, it's all to help us, it gives us an advance, in essence. And I feel, if we are open and being if we are in alignment with what's cosmically and naturally taking place, we all would be in a better space collectively. And I just wanted to take a moment to talk about this because I only have so much time because I wanted to release this, at a specific time. And I'm still in the good area, but in regards to transits, there's a couple others I want to wrap up and talk about just to all come, full circle with this session. Just to talk about the things happening just alone in the month of March. Yesterday we just had a total lunar eclipse in the sign of Virgo. And that in itself, with eclipses come in to really shift us and transform us into our purpose. And it's like a really divine time because eclipses, they span for not just, when it happens, but over a series of months, for me specifically. And I could be, to some degree, it may be longer, but I know that the time frame of how long that energy lasts, like I spoke about shadow periods and things of that nature, like there's a ripple effect of the changes that are being brought in this moment. And with the lunar eclipse happening in the sign of Virgo, which is a sign that is ruled by the planet Mercury, and Virgo to me talks about the health of the body, ana, you know, the analyzing of things, the observation of things, the details, the actual the physicality in regards to making sure that things work like they should efficiently. And that's Virgo energy to me. It can be a bit meticulous to a certain degree, but all things are working, naturally in essence. And I feel like with the eclipse, the total lunar eclipse happening in the sign of Virgo, it's like, okay, there's going to be an eclipse, there's going to be a shift here energetically in the collective, and it's going to be done in such an organized, detailed, analytical, observational, but very efficient way. And that's the energy that I'm getting from the total lunar eclipse happening in the sign of Virgo. And I'm really excited about the transits that are taking place because for me, what it means, especially, when it means that it's going to benefit me, that means that anything that was lingering, not only just for me myself, but for everyone in the collective, for the things that may linger, this eclipse is here to really clean those areas out, of our lives. And it's going to do so in a very detailed and efficient way. Like the shift is going to be like waves, for the moments to come, the months to come. And I'm just excited for everyone who is open to these cosmic transits. And another thing that I wanted to mention as well before wrapping up, we also just experienced, well, right now, today is actually the full moon, and the full moon is in the sign of Virgo as well. And I feel like it all ties back into what I said about Venus going retrograde, the total lunar eclipse, eclipsing things out of our lives. We're at the end in Pisces season, very um heightened themes around endings and things of that nature, and it being done, in a way that things will flow and it's going to open doors to start fresh new starts. Aries, and Aries is the head of the body. It is the start of all of our bodies. Celeste oh my goodness, I can't even speak right at this moment. Mercury is definitely retrograding when it connects to our way of thinking and communication and things of that nature are all connected. But what I'm saying is that all of these things will cosmically makes sense. As I said, Aries rules the head of our celestial bodies, and then so on and so forth. We're in Pisces season, which is connected to the feet, and now, we're at the brink of stepping into even a new season specifically. And I just feel like Venus is guiding us to go on this journey in such a way with this open invitation and opportunity to really reflect on relationships and all of the things that Venus influences, with us on the planet. And then with the total lunar eclipse and the full moon, it's like, what other way to release? Like, we are really purging and setting the intentions universally, like cosmically speaking, there's a symphony happening and it's harmonizing us as humanity. So, with that being said, I'm going to actually wrap it up for this session. And I may talk more about some of the things that I see take place, in March that I didn't talk about. I know I had made a session talking about Venus and Venus going retrograde all on its own, and I talked a little bit more about how that is, impacting us or will impact us, and just my thoughts on it. And I wanted to tap back in and talk about more things happening in March. And it just now resonating with me about why March is, called March Madness, and just all of the beauty that happens in the month of March. And so I hope you all have enjoyed this as much as I have enjoyed talking to you all about it. And until next time, peace.